Greetings. I am Ada Marie Bobineau, and I'd like to welcome you to the Fiyah podcast. We are so excited to bring you legendary filmmaker, pioneering, and just a veteran writer and producer and producer. And so we are so excited to share with you Mr. Charles Burnett. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. But that's one of the things when you're doing a project independently, as opposed to when you're assigned a project to do for Hollywood or for a production company. You have more, you have less control over what you can do and can't do, who you can bring on, who you can't bring on. Do
Yeah,
you remember who was your first? Because you started off independent in school, Killer Sheep and your other
yeah.
films. Do you remember your first project for Hollywood and how that came about and what your
Yeah.
learning process was? Because you're
Oh
not
yeah.
doing everything in the Hollywood thing. It gets departmentalized. So
Yeah,
how
yeah,
was
yeah.
that for you? That switch, because you go in and out,
Well,
Hollywood and
well,
independent.
no. But you have to be you have to be principled. You have to say, look, I want I worked with this person before, a black person. I want to work with him now. They want to say, well, if you have this other person, no, you want this person on the set now because they. What happened was a lot in Hollywood films. They want a crew, which you can understand. We had experience doing Hollywood
Hmm.
films because it's a whole different aspect. But if you made a film before, if you made independent films, you say he could do this because he worked in my last film. But you didn't. No. They want to see what they'll get. What you call it's an organization that uh, studios hire for them to go over everyone who works on the film, crew member, to make sure that they have been made a Hollywood film because it's all about time and things like that. Can you do this enough time? Because if you get behind, fall behind because if anyone doesn't do their job, it costs. If you have to stop a day, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so
Mm.
there's this need to make sure that every department is filled with at least the head uh, person, the wardrobe head person, wardrobe had experience, and wardrobe had a lot of experience, and so forth.
Hmm.
And the more they have, and if you have Academy Award, that's even better, you know. And so, but if you worked like I worked with a lot of people, an
You have,
independent,
yeah.
yeah, and so they all did everything, and so these people don't get a chance because they didn't do a Hollywood film, but you have to make them say, look, I'm standing up for this person. This person's done this film for, and I know they can do it. I know they can do sound. I had same with Vita. Same with Vita. We had a big argument about Vita doing sound. Vita Campbell. And
Are there not enough black directors doing that though?
well,
Because I say that because they're getting, when they get the opportunity to direct a Hollywood film, they like want to direct and they don't want to be pushed aside or make trouble or
it's
so.
all of that, but it's also it's like how many you want willing to fight for. Say for example, like when I did Annihilation of Fish, I worked with Paul Heller,
Right.
who was a producer, a great guy, great attitude and everything. And when he said in the very beginning, he says, I want this film to look like LA, meaning that he wanted to be diverse. He wanted to have people of color, everybody who could work, the people of color he want on the set. It was no, well, this person's a black person. No. If that person has could do it, bring him on. I mean, it was a relief for him to say that and to make sure that the people who the only thing he had was that I can understand.
Representation.
Yeah, the only thing he had a friend who did music. And he said, Charles, I you know, I could you do this? And I usually work for Stephen James Taylor, but but this guy was so fair. I had to say, okay, yeah, that's a little compromise. And she was a good person, a musician, and everything. And so, but Steve was a great person. He did everything I needed from other films. But he said that was the only thing he asked for was this music person, you know.
Hmm. Well, that's
No,
a rarity though, Charles. I'm sure that's a rarity because don't you usually have to fight and
oh yes,
demand? And
yes,
I mean, it's a rarity when someone says, "I want to represent, a crew representative of LA." Different
yeah.
colors
Well,
and
see the thing is this: if you get people like most crews are white,
right.
and so they're able to their friends and friends of white, they're able to have contact to get in touch with these people, and then the first one they let know, and then once you do one job, you get
You get the
that
next
credit.
and the next and the next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because I remember I was when one of the camera guy I used was they said, well, we have to get him because he did these films. Okay, there's a guy by the name of Ricky mentioned who was started film basically I did. He got this thing over at Universal, apprenticeship at Universal,
Mm-hmm.
and so I saw him at some point a few years later, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Hey man, where you been?" And he was telling me that he couldn't get work. He said that
And
another
he's black or white? He's black or white?
black guy, and was another
Okay.
guy who was a black guy who was also at the same time and going apprenticeship program, got this one film that they let him to do, and that was it. And then they give you the one film, and that was it, you know. And this other guy, all you have to do, and unfortunately, if you're white and you get the opportunity to do a non-union film in a sense, and then when you do that, you go on and on because you have that relationship with people or other white people, and they get you on the film. But then,
Well, that's one.
as,
That's
as
one of the. Yeah.
as a black person,
No,
you
I
still
was saying. I was. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no. I was as a black person, you're still outside because you don't get that opportunity. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
so
was gonna say that's one of the thing that's one of the thing that was so good about what Ava started doing in the industry in terms of making sure there's no representation on the film on this film crews. So that's one of the things that I hadn't seen happen in the industry.
no,
Um,
not too many people been in a position of Ava, but Ava is has been very good about that. And
mhm,
since she made a history about that, in a
mhm.
sense, and she's always, and particularly for women's rights and things like that, she's
Yeah.
really been. I mean, Spike was very good in the beginning of his
Mhm.
thing. He was doing a lot with
Oh
Dickerson.
yeah, half the people in the industry Spike brought on of
Yeah.
color.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Spike
Yeah.
he was, you can't argue with, things like that, you know.
Mm.
So no, you really have to say, I have this person, and this person can do sound, this person can do whatever it is, and so forth, and you just have to make it clear that this is what you want, and it's a power struggle,
Yeah.
and so
Has that been tiring for you having over the course of the films that you've worked on? You've worked on television series, on features.
yeah, but it's a war. It's always a war.
Yeah, how do you keep your
Some,
sanity with that? How do you keep your
you,
sanity? I mean,
you don't.
Charles.
That's why you want to retire early. You know,
Mm,
I can't afford to retire. I
mhm.
got I gotta work until I'm in a wheelchair or something like that. Even then, would you put the light over here? Yeah.
Oh.
No,
No,
you.
you were, I don't know. It just seems like it's tiring always having to prove yourself, always having to fight for your story, your characters, your actor, your crew. I don't know.
Yeah, but one thing about film school and what you should do as a student and as a person, make as many films as you can. Get your films shown in festivals and international festivals, particularly international festivals, where uh, you get credit for, and you get this write up. With Bill Gunn, for example, when he did Ganja and Hess, it was such an innovative. It's
It's okay.
yeah, I'm gonna
Live podcast. Go ahead.
yeah.
Bill
No,
Gunn, Ganja
I
Test.
was careful. No, I was gonna say I was gonna. Anyway, spam is gonna be the death of me. Anyway,
I
so
know.
I know what I was gonna say about and why it's important to make films as many as you can, different kinds of films.
Well, you were
And
talking about Bill Gunn with Ganja and Hess.
oh
Where were you going with
yeah. I'm sorry, same thing in a way. Okay,
that? Uh-huh.
Bill Gunn did Ganja and Hess. We were all in Paris together during that time I was telling you about.
Right.
And Bill was on the way. His film was screened in Europe, and it got such great reviews, and the critics are all following him to the airplane. This is a time when you can board the airplane with your guests, with the passengers, and you get off before the plane takes off, of course, but
Mhm.
you're allowed to get on the plane and all this sort of thing, and be in the terminal. And so Bill said he was flying from Paris to New York, and the critics were on the plane and getting off the plane when they were about to take off and everything. We got to Paris, got to New York. Nothing was said. Nothing. It was nothing about he had done so greatly, nothing like that. Same thing with me when I did Killer Sheep. It screened at the Berlin Film Festival, and I didn't know how important it was. Anyway, I'd won a prize there, and they had written
Uh-huh.
everything all over the press in Berlin and Germany about the film.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I got home. There's nothing there except that there was the Hollywood Reporter of Variety had written something about the festival, but not about who won at the Young People's Forum, but about the food on the Kudamstrasse, which is a big street,
Wow.
and the food, nothing, and nothing about you know a Black American won a prize, a big prize in England, Europe. All this stuff is all over the press, right? And so I just I you remember all these things that they
Yeah.
said, well, you're invisible, you know,
Mhm.
and all sorts of craziness. Anyway, so if you feel you've been validated there, people here can't tell you can't make a film.
Mhm.
You know, I was in a situation where and and Julie Dash and Chris, uh, what was Chris? Anyway,
Mhm.
Chris, I can't think of it. Anyway, uh, she had we all applied for American Playhouse.
Mhm.
American Playhouse turned us down. You know, but there was this film that they did that they gave the guy an extra uh, bag of money because they didn't want him to fail. And
Wow.
this is the second time another person did that too. I was in uh, Montreal, and we was doing a speech about it. And
Mhm.
this filmmaker tells me how they padded his budget, and I was so mad that
Wow.
we had to. It's like this is all you got, and you can't do with that. Then forget about it. You know, okay. So after the film was made, everything we screened the film, Sleep with Anger. I was at Sundance Film Festival, um, and the
Mhm.
guy, the head of American Playhouse, was there, and he was like apologizing, saying that well, no, he should have put money into my film and Julie's film, you know, because those are films that came out and got recognition and everything. And I think some big funder said, "How come you don't support these films?" You know, and so
Right.
and and he also sort of apologized and wish he hadn't supported them, you know. And that's a mad stuff about it, you know. You have to prove yourself, and and
Yep.
it's this constant. And I was looking on a feature film where this big producer,
Mhm.
uh, person of color, funded this other film and put money into the more money into the other director because they didn't want him to fail,
Mhm.
you know. And it was like again, you know, but I was in this in the production in the because we didn't have any money and all we had to cut budgets, everything. You have to make a
Mhm.
film, make it for less, and make it look like 10 times like you
Yep.
got, you know, all this stuff. And
Yep.
every time I would come to the the set in the morning, the producer would ask, a nice guy, but he said, "You're not going to make today." And I was working with Johnny Simmons, and Johnny Simmons and I would look at each other, and we'd say things, walk off, and every time we'd come in on time, and this guy was amazing. He kept wondering, "How did you guys do it?"
Mhm.
Because we had to do it with less and
Always.
you know, and it's like, you always have to prove yourself constantly, and that becomes the norm, you know, and you try to tell kids when you're speaking at these film things, conferences, whatever, what
Right.
you do. Look, put your pants up on you, you know, and learn how to speak English well, you know, all this kind of stuff, and do on and on and on, you know, and 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 be, you know, all these things you have to do. There's a list of things, you know, and make as many films as you can, you know, and you know all these things you try to tell them and have ideas because always it's always about making things work, you know.
Right.
And
Well, let me ask you, because there's like we're talking about, though, there's so many behind the scene blues and challenges to overcome, fights, compromises, and all that. Which I'm sure, you've been working in Hollywood for what, 30, 40 years, but what has kept you going in terms of the midst of maintaining your moral stance and sense of purpose to ultimately create the stories on your own terms? I mean,
very
what
simple.
keeps you going?
I have bills to pay,
Mm,
and they catch up with you. Get a house, you have your kids going to school, and you have to pay. You have to pay. But the thing is, one of the things you have to do is learn how to say no in every way possible that you can get the film. Because if it doesn't work, you're going to be held responsible. And people
right.
produce with the strangest ideas about what the story is about, and you sit there and you
Hmm.
say, "Oh my God," you know. You say, like, for example, like when we were doing Selma Lord Selma, we had to, you know, it was based on this young girl's story about her experience with the civil rights movement.
That was
And
Disney, right? I think that was a Disney movie, wasn't it? I think
yeah,
it was. Yeah. Hmm.
anyway, I can't say too much about it because I get in trouble. Anyway, so anyway, so anyway, what happened was that we were supposed to be in Selma, Alabama. Okay,
Hmm.
and Selma, Alabama has a bridge that is very iconic. It's always shown in Life magazine, and every time they show John Lewis, whatever,
Right.
the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And when they crossed, the civil rights movement crossed over the Pettus Bridge, that's one of the things we were going to use. And so we were going to shoot in, excuse me, in another place out in Georgia somewhere, not in out Alabama.
Oh,
And so there's no bridge that looked like that, you know. And so we had looked all over, and they said, kept me looking all over Georgia for a bridge that could substitute for Edmund Pettus. I keep telling them you can't do that. They don't have any bridges like that. I mean, they had the only thing they had in Georgetown was a little bitty train trestle that goes over
hmm.
freeway overpass or something like that. I mean, like 500 something people crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge and it's marching going to Selma. I said that's iconic. I mean, it's like trying to shoot the Golden Gate Bridge and going to
Texas.
I said, yeah. And you say you can't. And it kept making me
Right.
look for this bridge. I kept saying we got to go there, got to go there. And then finally, the last day, they had to take a busload of us, the camera crew and everyone, to Selma, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, to shoot the darn thing. And they didn't have anyone
Hmm.
to do it. And so if you don't, and you can imagine how silly that would have looked if we would have shot any other bridge that didn't exist. I mean,
Hmm.
it was just like you. And so you have to sometimes to even you try not to yell, but they drive you crazy sometimes with
Hmm.
things you say. We can't do that like that. No way we can do it. Either cut it out or it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
Because I remember being on a set with this one director, and they kept wanting him to. It was a studio film, and they kept wanting him to redo things because they didn't like the way the wardrobe, the color, the dress, her hair, makeup, and everything. Well, they should have thought about that before
Mhm.
because you had to reshoot everything, and that's a fortune. And
Right.
and so, and so they blamed him for being slow. And it wasn't that. It was that you have all these people in the comment on, well, I think she ought to be in a red dress. I think she ought to be in this kind of dress, you know. And it's all subjective in a way. And so you have to say, hey, listen, you know, no, I'm not getting blamed for this. And no, no, we do this and that. And there's nothing's wrong with that dress or whatever it
Right.
is. And I mean,
Yeah.
these guys that you'd be surprised how much power they have. And I remember one of a cameraman was telling me that they kept saying, "We can't do this," and he said, "Do it. They'll do it because they got the money," you know. And he
Mhm.
could say that, you know. And so it's I mean, you learn these kind of things, and and they learn how to stay away, and
Yeah.
so and it's all about getting making many films as you can, getting confidence in your ability to make a film and edit a film and do and what sound you need, what this that you need, and so forth, and yeah, it's an ongoing experience. It's always something
Yeah.
new.
Yeah. I don't think people really understand the role of the director and what all falls under it, but it's a lot. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
I
Just
mean,
the
it's
whole,
yeah, it's what people don't realize that you can have a crew, but you can be working with actors that have different ways of acting, and they can't work with other actors, or something that doesn't work, or you don't understand their method, and so there's this fight going on with actors. They don't want to come out of this trailer because so and so is there, and I don't like they can't do a scene together,
wow.
and you're just like stuck and saying, well, yeah, guess, oh yeah, you're gonna be blamed for it. So
Yeah, well, and then you're on a time clock. You got to get the crew. The crew has to finish the shot because it's to go overtime, and it's it's a lot. You got to be
yeah,
therapist, teacher, professor, manager. You got to be all of that.
yeah, I went to a conference where
Mhm.
I won't mention the school's name, but they asked me to come and speak, and so I'm trying to tell them how to survive in this business. Um, what you have to do. They don't want to hear that. They want to know how can I get. They want to know how can I get this sold and thing, which is understandable. But no, if you want to can be in this business, you better learn how what where the wars are. Who's on your side and how to get through and how to overcome these issues about budgeting and things like that. When things that you have no control over, and how to go
Mhm.
around it, and get what you want and what make everyone happy and make a film that looks like it costs $1 billion, whatever, or up
Right.
there.
And a film that represents you long after you're gone. I mean, what you put out there represents you,
Oh yeah,
speaks
like
for you.
on my film, Sleep with Anger, two things. I was
My
fighting
favorite film.
PBS or it's PV this public radio station. They were supposed to finance people who never had a chance at
To see the
make a
film.
film. Yeah, to do a film, and it was the same conversation this person had who were funded a lot of these PBS films. Well, how come we can't get these people? How come we don't fund these people? Anyway,
Hmm.
so I was invited to participate and write a script. Anyway, so they started telling me, no, um, there's so much emphasis on this black family, that's about the South and things like that. I said, well, I said, I said, well, I just saw a film with Horton Foote where he was talking about his family experience coming up, and they
Hmm.
said, well, you're not a Horton, and it went on and on and on for a long scene, and they said, well, you're not a Horton Foote, and they wrote me this letter saying you never be uh, a filmmaker, and so
Hmm.
anyway, so um, you know, I screened my film in Hawaii, and this lady says to me, I didn't know black people had washing machines, because we had
Ooh.
everyday life experience and things. And then I was in Indiana, and and so it was a lot of white people stayed in the film. I mean, after the film, and talked about it, and so and they said, well, how come we don't see more films like this? And I pointed behind me because there's people in PBS were standing right behind me. I said,
Mhm.
you have to ask them because they said you would understand it, if I
Wow.
talked about, cultural things.
Well,
And it's
I know you had. I mean, I remember when you were making "To Sleep with Anger," the challenges that you had because I was around. I was around highly.
yeah,
Some of the things you had to deal with.
yeah. And so yeah, but you get that and you see you get this false information. Oh, they don't like this film in Europe. When you go to Europe, you say, how come we don't see more films like this? How come we see all this other crap? Whatever it is. And so you have to don't listen to certain things,
Mhm.
and because people just echo what everyone else has said. They never
Mhm.
And one of the things about being an independent film, Black independent film, you talk to the audience. You have meetings with, you screen your films. You talk to, when Oliver Franklin and Pearl Bowser had this program where we would make films and then go to these different cities and locations and talk to the people,
I
mostly
love
Black
that.
audiences, and we'll get the feedback, so we have an idea close to what they want to hear and what the
I
films
love
they want.
that.
That was
I
very
mean,
important.
I'm shit. I'm just having challenges just getting people to come see movies at the film festival. So something like that is just amazing. I love
Oh, it
that because
was.
filmmakers want that audience participation, the audience, how they're
Oh, yeah.
feeling.
And you
That
go,
needs it.
you expand your audience by, they look for your films on this, because they said, this
Yeah.
kind of film I want to see. You know, I had
Yeah.
people that said, my mother told me to come see your film and all this kind of stuff like this, and on and on.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then they have people come and say, your film changed my life, and your film made me want to be a filmmaker, all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure
That's the stuff that gets you. That's the stuff that really,
that's
yeah.
to make you stay in the business. You know,
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
doing something. And I remember I had a guy was fixing my roof, helping some repair people, and
Hmm.
and a Black guy, and we were talking, and we were talking about heroes, and he says to me, my hero is a guy named Night John. Okay, and
And
yeah,
you did
and
the
I'll tell
film.
you,
You did the film.
yeah. And then so I said, Night John. I didn't want to say, well, I mean the film. So I said, I wanted him to tell me more about, make sure we're talking about the right film, same film. And so he kept talking about the scenes in it. And I said, I made a film called Night John. And it was about, he said, yeah, okay, yeah, it was the same film, and I said, that was his hero and stuff like that. I said, yeah, because to me, it was an important film to me, because it was about education and
Hmm.
slavery, and what they endured because of the brutality, the mutilation, everything. If you can't learn how to read, and I was
Hmm.
saying, the reason I really like the film, because it shows you what people have the advantage now, and they don't use it. They don't take advantage of it, because what people did to learn how to read
Yep.
was, I mean, it was like capital punishment. It was brutal, if you catch you and things like that. So you need to understand that, which is a privilege, and what people have gone through, and all that. So anyway, so this guy was telling me this is his hero. I said, oh, no, yeah, well, I'm really glad you see that. With making those kind of films. That was I was really happy Disney made that film, because it didn't try to sanitize slavery. It,
Mm.
and Disney used that thought when I approached me. I thought it was gonna be like a Bambi kind of music, make it clean and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
and the reason I got it was because um, uh, what's uh,
They came to you. They came to you. You
yeah,
didn't
it
have
was
to audition for it or whatever.
what's the actor, um, what's
Lumby. That was Lumley, right?
no,
Carl
he
Lumley.
was in one a little bit, but the other actor who was gonna play the part that Lumley played.
Oh
Um,
God, I haven't seen it in 50 million years.
no,
It's been a
it
minute.
was he was just in Spike's film. Uh, no, he was just in what's this film? The Delroy Lindo.
Oh, I love Delroy Lindo.
Yeah,
Sinners. He was just in Sinners.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. Well, Delroy Lindo wanted me to direct the film, and so he got in touch with me, and I said, yeah, okay. But Disney didn't want me to direct it, but Delroy did. But Delroy didn't sign yet. They didn't want to. They somehow kept delaying signing his contract, and so uh, another production, HBO, wanted him to be in this baseball movie, and so they offered him that, and he signed with that, and so Disney was left without an actor, but I had already agreed to do it, and so that's how I got the
Mhm.
job of doing Night John, and so
Okay.
then I brought they had went out to um, Carl Lumley earlier, but he turned it down because a lot of times a lot of actors don't like how they do slave movies, and so they have this. They worry about who's the director
Who's
on this.
going to direct? Right.
Yeah,
Who's going to
so
direct it?
because
Mm.
that did he because I was involved, and then he said yes. So that's how that came about. But yeah,
Okay.
but I was, but it was
Oh, I love it. That's cool.
yeah, good a story to do about education. This little girl and her wanting to learn, and this guy who sacrificed
Hmm.
himself and to teach her how to read. So
So as we're winding down, what's the favorite film? Favorite film? Favorite actors you worked with? I mean, any favorite films?
I think all of the ones I think Nightjohn, particularly because of what it said and what it did, and um, I like um, Killer Sheep. Of course, I like uh, uh, Sleep
That
with
was your
Anger.
first
There's a lot of
baby.
good actors I worked with in there. I also like the Annihilation of Fish, which is coming out
What do
with
you mean
Jason.
that's been out? They're
No, no,
re-releasing it because James Earl Jones was in it. They're re-releasing
no,
it.
because we had it in the can for a long time because of a bad review that um,
It got
re-
bad reviews. Oh,
yeah,
was that because of the interracial couple?
no. It was because of this guy by the name of Pierre Etienne, who Hailey and I made enemies with. At least I did in many ways. And he had a film who worked for the Hollywood Reporter, and his friend and he wrote this awful review. And I know it's because I had this big argument with Pierre Etienne, who was his close friend, and he killed the film. And so it was going to
Wow.
be distributed then, but then it scared the
Yeah,
it
I
scared
was
the
wondering what happened because yeah, when it came out, there wasn't a lot. There wasn't a release. There
well,
was
there was
yeah. I
no,
was
no, there were good reviews. It was just as a one review, and it was
wow.
and they just killed it.
That's
And
crazy.
then it came out, and maybe it's been shown, and people wonder why did he get this bad review and all stuff like that. And they talked about the reviewer. I mean, the critic, uh, you know, really bad. And but anyway, so
Wow.
those things.
I like the glass shield too. And that's
Yeah.
something that to me is timeless because we're dealing with that shit now. That type
Oh
of
yeah.
glass shield to me is time. And that didn't get a lot of play either. And I with Ice
No, it got
T.
no. That's another long story. Whereas I got a distributor who, because I wouldn't change the content to a large extent, where it's more guns and violence and language, that he said
Mm.
it was Bob Epstein actually, and
Yeah, that was a good movie. It just
yeah,
didn't get
and
a
so
lot of play.
yeah, and it was a struggle because he wanted it to be all about Ice Cube's character, more or less, and about guns and violence, and I said, no, it's not about that, It's based on a true
Mm-mm.
story. It's about how one can be compromised and trying to do the right thing by
Right.
just innocently thinking that a little lie won't help. It will help because if you look at these people, the Ice Cube character, like a vicious, inhuman character, that you do
Hmm.
anything to get him off the streets, which you can understand to some extent. But that if you think the person is 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 guilty, that's one. If you know he's guilty, that's one thing of these
Hmm.
crimes. But if it's set up where he's a pawn and the police uh, you know and trying to cover up this murder that he didn't do, and that this one little lie that you told had a lot of
Blows
consequences.
up.
You know,
You know what, Charles? We're gonna see that shit played out with this government. That one little lie. Shit's gonna blow over, hit the fan at some point in time in life. I don't know if I'm gonna be around to see it, but that one little lie with Epstein or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of lies actually,
oh
but
yeah,
cover
I
ups.
hope soon. I hope it is soon because he's dismantling
Oh my
every
God,
decent thing we've
unbelievable!
achieved in the civil rights movement in
It
this
is
country.
unbelievable.
Yeah, and they just sit there and let it happen.
It's I've never
It's so,
seen anything like it. I mean, you lived longer than me, but in terms of through the different eras, I've never seen anything like this.
no, this is
Just
new. This probably it could be the end because he's talking about this vaccine and stuff like that, and how he's defunded all this medical research
well,
for
there's
cancer.
everything. They
All this,
defunded everything. Shit.
yeah,
I mean, this is
and they
you
just
know
sat
you know
there.
how many people have lost contracts with trying to make films that had contracts set
Oh
with
yeah,
the
yeah,
National
yeah,
Endowment and National Humanity. I mean, they just
I know how many people who are
public
sick.
radio, public television. Just it's
Yeah, I know.
unbelievable.
I
But
know
yeah,
that.
that one little lie, those little lies are going to hit the fan. So we'll see. But let me ask you, is there a major passion project or story that you really want to create, but you haven't been able to because of funding? But it's something that you really wish
Yep, there's a lot of them. A
I
lot of them are from slave narratives. I see so many things in there that I like to do. There was one by an author, a writer, great writer named Arthur Kessler, who did Darkness at Noon. That's one I like to do. Um, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of stories out there. You know,
yeah.
there's stories of a friend of mine. I like to do a documentary on him. That's more than a documentary, but docudrama, because his son has autism,
Mm-hmm.
and he and his family, he and his wife, has done. They are my heroes because
Oh.
they've done so many things that have helped his son. You know, other people would just not would given up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they've taken him to school. They went to college with him. They said in college, enrolled in college. Charles Bracy enrolled in college to make sure he got a college education, and and
Wow.
and no, and he was one who was in my film and in several films I did, Charles Bracy, and we went
Hmm.
to school together in college and things like that. But his was how he treats his son, make sure his son and he and his wife make sure his son is is
Treated normal, treated just normalized.
yeah, yeah. He has a job working at the stadium where the Rams and the
Yeah.
Chargers play. You know, uh, they have this program over there. He does that. You know, he goes to City College. You know, um, and just uh, and it takes tap dance. He does everything. You know, and he's autistic, but he hasn't he hasn't lost anything. And his family
Oh,
are just
nice.
to do that. You know, you see these people how they treat their kids. You know, and no patience and stuff. And this is you just want to say, well, this is what you're supposed to do when you raise a kid. You know,
Mm.
whatever, however he comes out, you're supposed to love him. I see people who have kids who are deformed and yet still they know what love is. You know what you're supposed to do, and those kind of folks like that, I just don't know. I just can't say enough about them. You know.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, it would be nice to see that. When this, I just wanted this last question. When you think about your legacy, what would you like for people to remember about Charles Burnett or remember Charles Burnett by? What's your legacy? Leaving.
Um. ooh, um.
Obviously, you haven't thought about it.
Well, no, I have because my kids always talking about it. You know, and
Mm,
I think I think all you can do is have some impact, positive impact on people, particularly people who are at a disadvantage. You know,
mhm,
what that you do something that make them um, feel is that you did something that changed their life. You know, and not just you just came here and did what little and then disappeared. You know, but but while you were here, you thought about other people. You know, and you saw
mhm,
how they've done. You know, like people who have
mhm,
um, kids that have
mhm.
yeah. Like there's this program called uh, Smiles or something like that. It's like you donate money for kids who are in these third world countries that would have defects.
Yeah, I've seen that. The kids' teeth
A perfect smile.
deformities. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I've
it's a
seen it.
perfect smile. Why give to that? Because this thing, if you can, it's only a few pennies a day, and things like that, and it makes a big difference in their life
Hmm.
and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Because I still do something. I used to have this speech impediment when I was younger, and it still comes up every now and then. And
Hmm.
and it was when I was doing the film with James Earl Jones, Nine Days and Fish. He had a speech problem when he was younger, and he couldn't speak.
Mm.
So we were sent up there. He was showing me how he overcame his stutter. You know,
Hmm.
so that was very
Wow.
kind. While we're working on the set, he would, you know, uh, would be gracious enough, to show me how he managed to get over it, and
Oh,
but you can tell where he is about to stutter again because he takes this deep breath and it's like, you know, that sort of thing.
you've worked with some amazing actors. What
Uh,
has that been like for you in your career, working with James Earl Jones, with Danny Glover, with Lumley? I mean, you just a lot of Mary Alice, and I can go
yeah,
on. But what has that been like for you?
very lucky because Davis Roberts and Roberts Davis, who played Okra in the thing. I always wanted to work with him, and Julius Harris, and they were so great to work with. And since there were so many great actors that came in to read, and you see how talented they are, but they never got the chance, and you say, how come I didn't? How come we haven't been seen? And it's a dumb question because you know why they haven't been seen because they don't get the opportunity, you know. But you're so amazed about how can someone ignore this talent?
Right.
And you see that racism is just the end of us, and you see how and you see how stupid it is when it denies talented people
Mm-hmm.
a creative expression, I mean, outlet, and it would
Yeah.
help everybody, like you see a lot of films, African films, and other cultural films that minorities, people of color,
Mm-hmm.
and how it's I remember seeing um, films by Kurosawa, Ozu, and all people like that, and some other foreign films, and it changed your whole attitude about people, and
Mm-hmm.
things. And I remember seeing these Japanese films, and they're very real people, and you feel that you've been um, uh, uh, put at a disadvantage because you don't see people as they really are,
Right. Right.
and you said,
Right.
"Damn, I wish I'd seen this before," and you
Mm-hmm.
learn a lot about human nature and about them and a whole bunch of other things, but to see real people deny that because of racism. It's just that's that's one thing that they ought to have schools where they have to show you that kids growing up, these are human beings, no matter where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and why
Yeah.
it's necessary for you to see them as such, that you're no different. Now, one thing I must say about my mother was she's from Mississippi, but she never wanted to go back to Mississippi, and she would always say, "You're no better than anybody else," things like that, and live and let live. She didn't was had seen the worst of people, and particularly racism and stuff like that, and being from the South, and made it clear that don't think you're special and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Right. Because of what you do, what you've done.
Or, yeah, just that,
Don't think you're special.
yeah, that you're no better than anybody else, and I mean, there was love there, of course, but it was teaching you how to be a person, to be a man. So,
Right.
and I must
Yeah.
say this about people from the South, and particularly older people who really know the value of learning and your disadvantage. When
Of
I was growing up,
humanity too. But go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, people would say to you as your kid, you're walking in the streets and whatever it is, they would come or pass you and say, "Boy, stay in school, get a diploma." You know, that was what it wasn't like go to college. They would have, but they had an education best they could. They'd always try to tell you to stay in school, and
Mhm.
and live in a neighborhood. We had a nice neighborhood, man. It was they really took care of you, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
Those are
was,
good days. Well, the New York Times has dubbed you the nation's least known great filmmaker and most gifted Black filmmaker. And you have a life to have proved that you are the most gifted Black filmmaker. And I think that whole little least known, I think that, unless directors really aren't front people, unless you get to the status of like a Tyler Perry or Ava DuVernay or Spike Lee. But a lot of times people don't know who the hell the directors are, and they're the ones that do the film, put the film together.
yeah,
So I don't know about that dub, but we know you, we love you, we appreciate you, And again, I'm so excited that you're coming. Yay!
Well, I'm excited too.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
to see my
So
old
Charles,
friend.
thank you for this time. I really appreciate
Oh,
it. And
thank you.
we will definitely talk more when you get to San Antonio.
Yeah. You
And
see, this is the stuff that makes you want to make films, you know, and sort of validates you, you know, because you talk to people who say, well, you know, you're okay, you know, and I like the word. So
yeah.
that's good.
What kills me though with just the population and the way people's mentality is, they're only attracted to or enter into popularity. What's in, what's hip, what's so they may not know who the hell Charles Burnett is or who Holly Garima is, because you haven't been legitimized
Yeah.
like a, on the big screen in Hollywood like you should have been, or could have been. But that's what draws people in. I mean, and that's the problem I'm having, the issue I'm having with film festival, trying to do a film festival where I'm bringing in names like you
Yeah.
and Hailey, and they don't know who the hell you are, so they're not bothered. But when I brought in like a Felicia Rashad, boom, everybody's there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they're only going to the glitz, to the what's shiny, what's polished, what's showing in front. And
Yeah.
people aren't
What,
open to learn and just come into
yeah.
the fold and learn and be enriched by things they don't know about, by people they don't know, by voices they haven't heard. And so that's a challenge that I'm trying to really overcome here in San Antonio. So
But
it's a different
just
type of spot.
it is, but just bringing, having Felicia Rashad recognized, it helps
Yeah,
her films and her making more films like that. And she's a very, very good person. Her and her sister.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful person. Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, but if you just get one person to say, your films changed my life and made a difference, you know, uh, and and that's, just that one person. If you know, it's like that makes the world of a difference. It doesn't take a zillion of population, but just that one person can make a world of difference,
Mm-hmm.
And so
That is
that's,
so true.
so, because uh, if you knew how long it took for you to get here, how long the universe has been here, like the billions of years it took for this universe to form, this galaxy. See, but
Yeah.
we've been for like hibernating for like billions of years, and it seemed like yesterday. No, we were here for a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's
Literally.
that's a good word, hibernation, because it feels like that. But you've been putting in the work, doing, growing, developing.
Or just being stardust, as they say, till we formed, you know, this
Yeah.
earth, and we were able to
Hmm.
become who we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, thank you, Charles, and God bless. We will see you soon. We look forward to more things down the line. Okay.
Good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Hold tight.